We do not truly want to understand others. What we want is for them to behave. But when we take a closer look, when we dare to observe the small details, we can uncover a deeper side of human nature. This video is not just an exploration of the human mind, but an invitation to better understand ourselves and others in a more compassionate way. After this video, you should be able to observe others in a way that reveals not only their hidden truths but also their struggles, contradictions, and imperfections. It's a painful but vital process of understanding that what people hide often speaks more about their inner battles than about the world around them. But before we dive into this analysis, let's acknowledge this isn't an easy practice. It's uncomfortable to dissect people, and it may make us uncomfortable with our own projections and repressions. But like any surgery, the goal is healing, not harm. I'd like to first start with projection, or what I like to call the invisible confession. Projection is a concept that might make us uncomfortable because it forces us to confront the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. But it's important to remember that when someone projects their faults onto others, it's often because they can't face them in themselves. It's a way of protecting their fragile self image. Let's take the example of someone who loudly condemns a behavior they secretly engage in. Their hatred is not about the other person, but rather about their inability to accept that part of themselves. They are fighting their own inner conflict, not you. As Nietzsche said, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. This is not an excuse for their behavior, but a way of understanding it with empathy. We all fight battles within ourselves. The second thing I want to talk about is repression. Sigmund Freud's concept of repression suggests that we push down uncomfortable emotions and thoughts because we don't want to face them. But we need to understand that repression isn't a sign of weakness or moral failing. It's a defense mechanism. It's our mind's way of protecting us from pain. Think of the man who acts tough, but then goes on and laughs about people's sadness. He might be repressing his own grief, something he's too afraid to acknowledge. Or, for example, the woman who criticizes others for their sexual desires because she can't confront her own buried feelings. This doesn't make them bad people, it makes them human, struggling with their own insecurities. Repression can be a sign of trauma or unhealed wounds. It's not about judging them, it's about understanding that we all have parts of ourselves we are not ready to face, and that's okay. The journey to healing begins when we stop pretending those parts don't exist. The third thing I want to discuss is disgust, the border of the self. You see, disgust often reveals the boundaries we set for ourselves, but it's crucial to understand that it comes from a place of fear and vulnerability, not pure judgment. When we feel disgust toward someone or something, it's not really about that thing. It's about something within us that we refuse to accept. Let's take a politician, for example. When a politician denounces a group of people, but then secretly engages with them, it's not about being a hypocrite alone. It's about the fear that their own desires don't align with their public persona. It's a painful contradiction that many people live with. As Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So, when we feel disgust, it's often a signal to examine our own fears and unresolved emotions, not just to condemn the other person. Now, let's move on to language, because language is leaks in the mind. Freud's concept of the Freudian slip shows us that our unconscious mind often reveals itself through our words. But this doesn't make us bad or fake, it makes us human. We all have moments where we say one thing but actually mean another. These slips don't always signify deep psychological wounds. Sometimes they're just a glimpse of how complex and contradictory our minds are. So when someone says, "I'm not jealous," but their tone betrays them, it's not a reason to mock or judge. It's a chance to empathize. They might be struggling with insecurities that are too painful to admit, even to themselves. Recognizing this gives us the opportunity to approach them with compassion rather than condemnation. Now, let's move on to interests and icons. What people worship. You see, our obsessions and idols reveal more about us than we realize. When someone worships, for example, alpha male influencers or tragic pop stars, it's not just about admiration, it's about yearning for something they feel they lack. It's not about mocking them for their tastes, but understanding that those tastes are a reflection of their inner struggles and desires. Carl Jung said, "When we neglect our potential, it comes back in twisted ways." People who idolize certain figures may be struggling with their own unfulfilled potential. Rather than seeing this as weakness, we can see it as a powerful reminder of how fragile our self worth can be and how much we all need to feel validated. And now, the last thing I want to talk about is body, eyes, and expression. These are non-verbal leaks. You see, our bodies betray us in ways words cannot. But we should be cautious in interpreting these signals. When someone avoids eye contact or shifts their body nervously, it's not always a sign of guilt or dishonesty. It could be a sign of insecurity, trauma, or discomfort. We are all carrying invisible burdens, and these nonverbal cues are just one way of understanding the complex inner world of the person before us. Empathy is crucial when reading body language. Instead of jumping to conclusions, try to ask yourself, what could be going on for this person? What eternal battles are they fighting? And that's all. By observing the small details, projection, repression, disgust, language, body language, we are able to uncover much more than what's on the surface. But remember, understanding is not about judgment, it's about empathy, compassion, and realizing that everyone is struggling in some way, even if we can't see it. So, as you continue to analyze others, don't forget to look inward as well. We all have projections, repressions, and contradictions. Recognizing this within ourselves allows us to approach others with understanding rather than judgment. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the human mind. And remember, true understanding comes from looking beneath the surface, not just of others, but of ourselves.